Hello, my beautiful friends. Welcome back to the show. Today, I'm super excited to dive into today's conversation with Aubrey. She teaches creatives how to sell stock media assets like photo, video, and illustration. She also serves as a coach for creative entrepreneurs who want to build multiple income streams, including passive income, into their work. She helps them develop innovative ways to create a business that builds security, stability, and creative freedom into their lifestyles. She's worked in the photography industry for over 10 years, and in the past decade, she has built 2 six-figure creative businesses and a passive $30,000 per year income stream through stock photography. I am so excited to dive into the world of stock photography, and without further ado, here is Aubrey. Welcome.
Thank you so much, Lisa. I'm so happy to be here today.
So tell us who you are and what you're really passionate about.
All right. Well, my name is Aubrey Westlund, as you already mentioned. And I just love building creative businesses. I've been a photographer, like you've said. I also had a wedding invitation business early on. But what I really love about being an entrepreneur and building your own business is the ability to build a business that really supports the type of life that you want to live, yes. Right? And so that's how I really got into learning about passive income and building that into my business. And I just love being able to educate other creatives on how to do the same thing.
I love that. So stock photography, it's something that you hear about, but you actually never really hear many people doing it. So I'm so excited
right.
to learn more about this. So how did you get your start in stock photography? Or was it like an industry that you kind of just fell into?
I actually just fell into it when I was a wedding photographer. There was a new agency at the time called Offset, and they were actually starting as the new premium collection for Shutterstock. A lot of people have probably heard of Shutterstock. Oh, yeah. That's a really big name in the stock photography world. So they wanted to create this new kind of more niche, higher quality offset of their agency, which is funny because it's called Offset.
I love it.
And yeah, they were reaching out to photographers at the time, and they reached out to me, and at first I was just like, I kind of blew it off. I didn't really know if it was a scam or something. Right?
You're like, is this one of these scam emails? Yeah.
Exactly. I was like, are they trying to get me to do something weird here? I don't know. And then it wasn't really until my slow season that I remembered, and I went back to that email and I was like, okay, I've got time. Let's check this out. And, I just started, submitting random work that I had. And it really wasn't until I made my first sale that I was like, oh, wow, this is legit. And I think I made like 150 on that first sale of that first image I licensed. So at that point I was like, okay, I could actually, get serious about this and start putting some real time into building this.
I love that.
So,
now, when you're doing that, my first question that pops in my head, I'm a newborn photographer. And if I were wanting to get into stock photography, how does it work with, are you using images of people? What are you using as stock?
I submit everything I can, and that's something I tell my students as well, because you would be really surprised sometimes what actually ends up selling. Yeah. But photos, images of people, videos of people, they are, some of the higher selling they are part of the, top selling categories. The only thing is that you will have to get a separate model release for any of those. And usually the model release the photographer has isn't going to work, because you need one that is, that mentions stock and the agency that you're working with. So you need to make sure that you can get model releases for any of those photos you'd like to submit.
Yeah.
But yes, family photography is a great industry to be in, and you would actually be surprised how many of your clients will actually say yes and be excited to sign a model release for stock photography.
That's true. You know, it's so funny because I'm always like, even when I model call, I'm always like, oh gosh, like, I like feel like people are doing me a favor, and I kind of forget
Right.
like sometimes it's like, wow, like they're pretty excited about this too. It's a different perspective that it's something that they get to do and they get to be featured, and like, maybe they want to model, right?
Exactly. Yeah, it's exciting for them. And I think, they feel honored that, someone might want to use their image in a magazine spread or something like that. So it's actually easier than you might think. I know a lot of the photographers I work with are super, super nervous about asking for that model release. But more times than not, people are really excited to sign that for you. And especially as your clients that you've built up, a relationship with, they're eager to do that for you. Yeah. So,
love that. So someone who maybe is just getting started with stock photography, where do they even start?
Yeah, that's a great question. The first place to start is by choosing an agency. So there are many different types of agencies out there these days. There are the classic microstock agencies, which they're probably the ones that most people are most familiar with, where you're going to be making maybe 10 cents per sale. Their entire goal is to sell a large volume of images at a lower price point. And it's not necessarily worse to work with a microstock agency. I work with Adobe Stock. That's one of the agents. I work with multiple agencies, but that would be considered microstock. And I actually do really well on there because I sell so many images. And so even though it's a lower price point, it's one of my best agencies because they have so many customers.
I love that.
So I don't know if we can put this in the show notes, but I do have a free resource. It's called My Little Black Book of Stock Photo Agencies. And that is the culmination of months of research that I did to compare and contrast all the different stock agencies out there, so that if you want to learn, which would be the best agency for you, that's the first place you can go. And you can decide, if you'd rather work for a microstock agency or if you want to try and apply to a premium agency, which is what Offset would be considered. So that would be a great place to start to help you decide on which agency you want to work with.
I love that. Now, are there any agency pitfalls that students or listeners should be aware of that they might not know about?
Pitfalls, you mean with,
or like maybe
working with certain agencies?
Yeah, like maybe there's just like things that we don't think of that we should watch out for.
Well, I think it's just important to know that you're not going to have a lot of success right away.
Yeah.
So I think a lot of people give up way too soon. And I think that's probably the biggest pitfall that I see. It really takes consistency with uploading and really just focusing on building that portfolio on whatever agency you choose. So another thing I see is people think like, oh, this isn't a good agency, I need to switch. And really they just haven't given it the time.
Right.
So I always recommend try to build your portfolio up to at least 1,000 images before you give up and, decide to move on to a different agency, because more often than not, they're just not putting in enough time.
Totally. Now, can you work with multiple agencies at once with the same images, or do you have to just go with one?
You can, as long as your contract with them is non-exclusive. Some of the agencies will ask you to sign an exclusive contract, so that means that the images you upload to that agency's sites, you're agreeing not to upload them to other stock agencies' sites. But there are some ways around that. Like you're still allowed to, you could license them personally yourself or have them on your website, things like that. It's just they don't want their competition having the same images.
Totally. Now, have you found most agencies to be reputable, or are there some that maybe we should avoid working with?
Most of the ones that you've probably heard of are pretty reputable. Yeah. There are some agencies, that they're free stock agencies. And most of the time, the photographers that work with those agencies, they're looking to, maybe build their name, get their name out there, get more work as a commercial photographer. So I don't recommend, most family and lifestyle photographers to go with an agency like that. There's not much income to be made or, potential opportunities that can come from that. And also, if you're worried about where your photos are going to end up, think about it. If your photo is available for under $1,
right? Now it's on a Viagra ad,
right? Right. If it's available at a really low price, then just about anyone could, afford to purchase that and use it how they want. There are, agreements made with the agencies on how you can and can't use the images. But if you are, if you're feeling a little more nervous about who's going to purchase your image, then go with more of a premium agency like Offset or Stocksy, even Getty, that, it's a higher price point. So it's going to be more serious, a higher caliber of companies and clients that will be purchasing those photos.
I love that. Now, do you find that there's trends that you find in the stock, like what's selling, what's not selling, based on like seasonality or just trends?
Yes, definitely. It actually changes month by month. But if you, just look at a calendar and think about what's coming up in the next couple of months, holiday wise, and, even just like trends that are based on activities that people do. In the winter, people are playing in the snow and sledding and things like that. Yeah. So those are going to be more popular in the months leading up to the winter and during the winter. So I've created another resource. I'm actually finishing the last one right now, but it's a collection of 4 quarterly guides that actually tells you exactly what you want to upload each month throughout the year based on, the trending seasonal topics. And that's really going to help you to actually optimize your sales. Even just last Friday, I had found this collection of images that I took at a pumpkin patch last year of my daughter. And I was like, oh, I got to get this up because, Halloween's coming up. This would be a great time to have these up. And by Monday, I had already sold one of those images.
Awesome. Oh, that must be just like a fun little surprise. Like you open your account or your email, you're like, cha-ching, cha-ching, cha-ching.
Yeah, it's so much fun.
I love that.
And I have a free Facebook group that I try to actually share my sales on. And so often the people are in there like, I never would have thought to sell a photo like that of my kids or, of this or that. And so it's really fun just to see like the random things that you can actually sell. It doesn't all have to be perfect and, perfect lighting and everything.
So are you finding with like our cameras and our phones are getting so much better? Like, does it have to be shot on a DSLR or a mirrorless, or can these images actually be shot on iPhones and still be used as stock?
They can absolutely be shot on iPhones. I actually just upgraded to the new iPhone because I wanted to start shooting more video, and the camera is just so good. And some of these agencies are actually requesting more iPhone, like vertical format photos and video because, businesses are looking for that for Instagram and TikTok. Mm-hmm. So there's actually a huge need right now for photos and videos shot on iPhone.
Interesting.
So definitely, even if you don't have, a professional camera, you can still get into stock photography using your iPhone.
I love that. And so do you find just the simple edits are the ones that are really selling versus an over-edited or like a extensively edited image?
Yes, definitely. I always tell people just keep it simple, make sure the colors are true to life. Yep. Even avoiding like black and white edits, because the thing is when when a customer purchases your photo, they're still able to edit it themselves. So if they purchase a color photo, they have the right to, change it to black and white for their design. But if you're selling it as a black and white photo, they don't have the option anymore to, change it to color. So the more, flexibility they have with the image, the better.
Interesting. So I have to ask, because there is, especially in our industry, there's been times when my images have been stolen from my Instagram or my Facebook, and they've been used without my authorization. And I'm sure that probably in the stock photography world, that is something that occurs too. So if someone were a stock photographer, what course of action can they have if they find their image has been used without their authorization?
Well, the nice thing about the agencies is that they put watermarks on everything. So it is actually, they don't, it's not easy for someone to steal your photo off of their site. But you could always reach out to your agency, and they, could take care of it if someone is using your image in a way that, maybe they didn't pay for. But it is kind of hard to keep track because you don't always know who did purchase that image. So, maybe they did buy it on a specific site you work with, and you just don't know. So that's a tough thing, but it's nice that you don't have to worry about the licensing, and it's really your agency's job to take care of all of that for you. And I'm not sure about this, but they might have ways to check on, images that are, that haven't been
like reverse
paid
lookup
for.
or something.
Right.
Some sort of like that.
Yeah.
So,
That's a good way to be able to find out where your photos were sold to. The Google reverse image search.
I do it all the time.
Yeah. It's so fun.
So I have to ask, flat lays, they were huge on Instagram 5 or 6 years ago. Are flat lays dead?
I don't think so, because I still feel like there are a lot of uses for them. Think about graphic designers. They are big purchasers of stock photography. So any sort of background or flat lay, that could actually be incorporated into a design or an ad, that would actually be a really great stock asset. So thinking beyond Instagram, think about magazines or websites and how, maybe those images could be incorporated. And I do think that there's still a need for those.
Yeah. I love it. It's so interesting because, even with stock photography, there are so many different genres. Whatever tickles your fancy. You could be, if you're a food photographer, or I don't know, a feet photographer. Who knows?
It's true. No, actually, that is, you made me think of one of the photographers I know. She broke her toe and took a picture of it, and then someone bought it, and it was used for some medical journal. So you just really never know.
Right?
I hate to say that there's anything that you can't upload as stock photography, because they say the riches are in the niches, and that's true for stock photography as well. You never know when you've got the only, broken toe photo that someone could utilize.
Yeah. Or your crying kid with his broken arm. I love it.
Right.
It's so funny. A dog on a paddleboard. Who knows?
Yeah. I feel like I've seen those on ads too.
Right?
So.
Yeah, exactly. Someone made it.
Yeah.
Right. So should photographers avoid using sites like Canva? Because I think I don't really know who retain the rights if they design things there. So how does that work? Do you know?
So I know that Canva has a stock photography program. I haven't used it personally. I don't think that the commissions are very high. I think it would probably be considered micro stock. But with stock photography, you as the photographer, you still retain the copyright to your images. That's a great question. A lot of people, wonder about that, because you still own the copyright. It's just the image is just being licensed, and it's basically it gives someone the permission to borrow it for a specific use.
Right.
sometimes they're sold as royalty free, meaning the customer can use them multiple times in multiple ways indefinitely. But yeah, unless there's some sort of buyout that's been, negotiated by your agency, that's really rare. So yeah, you shouldn't have to worry about losing your copyright to your agency or your customer or anything like that.
So how does pricing...
Does that make sense?
It does.
Yeah.
How does the pricing of the images work? Do you set the price or does the agency?
The agency does set the price, and usually when you sign on, what your commission is going to be and what they're going to charge. But it does vary. So they will have different licenses that customers can purchase. Sometimes for a bigger image, it will cost more. It'll be based on size versus some agencies, will base it off of if it's being used for the web or being used for print. So that's kind of how that works, but it does vary a lot by agency. And that's, another thing that I do include in the little black book. A lot of these agencies, like their commissions are the same for everyone across the board. So, ahead of time going into offset, your commission is probably going to be like 30%, which, it's a lot for the agency to keep a 70% commission, but it's also the most passive income stream I can think of for most photographers. So for me, it's like I do the work and that image can sell for 10 years or more, and I'm doing the work one time. So that's kind of the trade-off.
Love it. Now, do you find there's certain types of photography that do better than others? And are there some that you say just avoid?
That's a great question, because I don't think I could say avoid any type of photography, just like what we talked about
just
earlier.
Like, surprise, it's sold.
Right. Right. You'll start to see once you begin uploading what's going to sell more often than others, but there's definitely categories, families, and just like photos of people together. That's a really big category. Like I said, anything seasonal having to do with different commercial holidays is going to be really big. And then technology is actually a really big growing category that's always evolving and changing. And then another one would be like work, or people working different jobs, but also like the workplace and telecommuting and working from home, like anything that can go into that category of work is also going to be, a really good category to focus on.
Interesting. Love that. So why do you feel it's important that photographers and creatives diversify their income streams?
I really feel like having diverse income streams can actually help you keep your creativity intact. As a photographer, if you are shooting the same thing over and over again, and you can kind of fall into a rut, and you're also reliant on getting client work for your income. And I think almost every photographer that was working back in 2020 felt the impact of that, right?
Yeah.
When you didn't have another stream of income, which stock photography was great for me because it actually kind of filled a need where, companies weren't able to hire photographers, or it was really tricky to put together photo shoots. So they were actually able to turn to stock photography. So that was kind of what kept me and my family afloat. Yeah. But I really feel that it is dangerous to rely on just one income stream, for your own well-being, for your business's well-being, for your creativity. I think the more you can just diversify as much as possible, the stronger your business is going to be.
Yeah, totally agree. Good. So we're going to switch gears. Are you ready for our lightning round?
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay. Coffee or tea?
I love coffee year round, but I do find myself drinking a lot more tea as it gets colder.
Yeah. What's your favorite tea flavor?
Probably Earl Grey.
Same.
Yeah,
It's a good
cozy. Yeah.
Most luxurious vacation you've ever been on?
A few years ago, I went on a trip to Paris, Amsterdam, and Barcelona. So that was
So good.
kind of a bucket list trip for me.
Love it. Did you shoot stock there?
I did. Yeah.
Good. Awesome.
Yeah. It's also, I love traveling because, I'm just so inspired to be in a new place. So I end up shooting a lot of stock content while I'm traveling.
Love that. Mm-hmm. What was your favorite TV show as a kid?
Early on, I actually wasn't allowed to watch much TV. So the first one that came to mind was Saved by the Bell.
Yes.
I know it's a little bit older, but yeah, I just love that show.
I love it. So funny. Last thing you did for yourself as an indulgence?
It's always going to be booking a massage for me.
Nice.
Yes. Love it.
Morning person or night owl?
I've always been more of a night owl. Yeah. But since I have a 3-year-old right now, I'm just tired all the time.
Yeah, a permanently exhausted pigeon.
Exactly. But when I'm not exhausted, I'm definitely up late working.
Yeah, fair. What did you want to be when you grew up?
I pretty much always wanted to be some form of a teacher. For most of my life, it was an art teacher, and usually it was based on like whatever age I was at that time. Like when I was in kindergarten, it was like, I want to be a kindergarten teacher. And then as I grew older, it was just like, I think I want to be, like a high school art teacher.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love that. Go to karaoke jam.
It's going to be anything by Taylor Swift, probably.
Love it. Good choice. So what do you wish more photographers knew? I
mean, I know we've talked a lot about diversifying your income, and that is something that I'm just really passionate about, especially after everything, that we went through in the past few years. But other than that, I just think that there is a limit to how long you can do client work. I mean, I know that it's always going to change because you love the people you work with, and that keeps it fun and interesting. But I do think, doing the same thing over and over again, it is going to squash your creativity. And I think it's important to do things for yourself, to set up shoots, that are exciting to you, that are a little bit different. And that's going to help you actually in your job. It's going to help keep things fresh and creative. For a while I started doing food photography, and then I felt like it was helping me to stay more creative in my weddings and just mix things up a little bit. So I think it's really, really important to take care of your creativity and don't, let the monotony of shooting the same thing over and over kill that for you.
Yeah, that's a great advice because truly, I have been there, and I'm actually currently in there. I burned myself out so bad that I haven't picked up my camera in about a month. Since I picked up my camera.
It's sad because I think most of us got into photography because it was so creatively fulfilling, but then once you do it as your job, it's so easy to fall into that place of burnout.
Yeah. And I think it was mainly I don't want to shoot because I don't want to edit, and I don't want to do more work. I have so much work to do. I don't need any more work. So
right. I'm a great editor for you. Yeah. Sometimes it's also, being able to hand off the things that are kind of getting in the way.
Yeah.
For
yeah.
you.
It's so true. It's so
Yeah.
true. What makes your soul light up?
My soul light up. Well, I would have to say, obviously, my daughter. But as far as hobbies go, gardening. That's like one of the few things that I haven't tried to turn into a business. And, and it's so
Same,
good for
friend.
me. It really, really, like you said, lights my soul up.
I love that. I love that you said that, because that's something that I do. Is as soon as I love something, I'm like, how can I turn this into a business? Right?
I think many entrepreneurs are just built that way.
So true. What's been the best piece of business advice you've ever been given?
Well, it isn't really a specific piece of advice, but I was lucky enough to have parents growing up who were entrepreneurs themselves. So I was able to just learn a lot from watching them. And I think that's really where my passion for building a business that supports the life you want came from. Because they both have businesses where they're kind of chained to those businesses. Like, they are not able to go on vacation. They're not able to really leave the business. So I always, kept that in mind for, whatever I did, I wanted to be able to retain some flexibility and, make sure that the business supported the life I wanted and not, my life being chained to or, needing to support that business.
Yeah, it's so true.
Yeah.
Like, the luxury of being able to choose when we want to work as photographers is like
definitely
wonderful.
It's something money can't buy.
No. So, where can our listeners learn more from you? You've got a course on getting started with stock photography. So, where can they find that?
I do. So the best place would be to go to my website, which is aubreywestlund.com. And from there, you can find all my freebies, and I have a blog, and you can read about my stock photography course if that's something you're interested in. And then I'm probably most active on Instagram, and that is Aubrey Westlund as well.
Love it.
Yeah.
What advice do you have for someone who is just starting out with stock photography?
Definitely consistency is key. So, try not to give up too quickly, and maybe keep that goal of building your portfolio to 1,000 images before you give up, before you even really expect to start bringing in income. I think that is a little trick to help you keep at it and stay consistent. Otherwise, you might feel a bit disappointed and give up. Yeah. So even like putting it in your calendar, like setting calendar notifications for, blocks of time that you can work on it, either once a month or once a week, whatever you have available. Just to help you stay consistent with it as you're learning, the process and everything like that. That's really going to help.
Love that. That's good advice. So I love to end my interviews just with this last question, and it is, what are you curious about or artistically curious about right now?
So I love that question because I feel like it's always changing for me.
Right?
That's just comes with being a creative person. I feel like you're always curious about something. But I really want to learn this year how to use Procreate. You know what that is? It's like the illustration app.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I used to love illustration, and I studied it a bit in college. And I think if that app had been around, it just seems like so fun and easy to use. And I have friends who are illustrators, and they're always showing these amazing things that they're drawing. So I've got my iPad ready. I've got some brushes. I've downloaded some brushes, and I just really want to set aside some time this year to learn how to use that. I think it looks like so much fun.
I love that. So cool.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for joining me today. It's been a pleasure chatting with you.
Thank you so much, Lisa. This was so much fun.
Oh, my beautiful friends, I hope you loved this conversation just as much as I did. I am sending you so much of my light and love today and every single day. We'll see you next time.